Well, they've done it, Pakistan. The back door was left ajar by South Africa and they have put their foot through at the expense of Bangladesh. They marched through to the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup against significant odds and against uncanny coincidences to the 1992 campaign. They almost for certain now set up a showdown with New Zealand. So will they go all the way is a conversation for another day. For now, we look back at how Pakistan got the better of Bangladesh in a game that was filled with incident, controversy, umpiring decisions, panic, and lots of runouts being missed. So that's just what happens when the stakes suddenly were risen, courtesy of the Netherlands beating South Africa this morning. It's a crazy day. The Adelaide Oval has given us a double header to remember. They'll be back for what we hope is a new surface for a semi-final in a few days' time. But we look back at that game, we look ahead to India v Zimbabwe on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Tom Moody and Robin Uthappa in studio with me. We'll hear shortly from Urooj, Mumtaz, and we'll also hear from Andy Fly as we build up to India-Zimbabwe. But let's first look back at what should certainly be the better team that won on the day, even though Bangladesh would feel like for the second game running, they had a few things not going their way.
Yeah, they didn't have a few things going their way. I think those no balls also costed them a little bit. In a low-scoring game, you can't get away and you can't afford those kind of mistakes. Having said that, Pakistan have played truly only how they can play and almost made a meal of 127. But nice batting there from Haris and Shan Masood. Made up for the slowness that the openers started with.
It was a funny sort of start with Babar Azam really struggling, Tom. But I guess what you said was the end of our mid-show. The emotions got the better of Bangladesh. There were no balls, there were chances missed, they were still arguing with umpires on reviews. In the end, perhaps the emotions got the better of them.
Yeah, I think so. I think at the end of the day, I think their back half of their batting sort of let them down. You know, regardless of the controversy around Shakib's dismissal, there's other players there that needed to step up, and you know, anything beyond 150 would have been a very interesting chase for Pakistan, particularly given the price tag on the game and Pakistan's sort of unpredictability may have shone through. Who knows? But at the end of the day, an unexpected match with an unexpected result, a semi-final spot. Who would have ever thought?
And they topped the table as well.
Well, for now. If India win, they go to 8. Yes. We have to be careful now. We will take nothing for granted. Today is, giant killer Sunday, if you want to call it that, the way it's begun. But it may not have necessarily been the most clinical, ruthless, polished chase, Urooj, but in the end, it's a comfortable one, and you would take that if you're Pakistan, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure. What is at stake as a semi-final spot? I think they'll take it with both hands. But like you said, not the most clinical win. Probably still a few question marks hanging here and there with their batting order or with the intent to approach, as many would call it. But I think into the semi-finals, there's a few things that I still wish they would tweak just to make things more comfortable for themselves. But yeah, I think into the semi-final, nobody would have imagined.
Yeah, let's talk about Mohammad Haris again, Urooj, for the second game running. 20s and 30s can play such a big part in a win, even though times we focus on 4-wicket hauls or half centuries or whatnot. And yet again, Mohammad Haris, who's been thrown into this team where it gets harder to bat apparently, has played just the perfect innings you would have wanted to make sure it doesn't get too close.
Yeah, absolutely. See, you break it down. I don't understand the reluctance with the top three, and there's been so much talk around Pakistan's middle order. And come the World Cup, where it mattered most, it's the middle order which has stepped up and sort of saved them in every game, South Africa included. India as well, the middle order came to the party, even today. I just don't understand because Babar takes his time, Rizwan takes his time, and I just feel they both add pressure on themselves. So if one of them just falls to 3, Haris, a 21-year-old, given the license to do what he is capable of doing, he likes the pace on. And let's not forget, the power play is probably the most favorable place to score runs. Give him that advantage. If it comes off, fair enough. If it doesn't, you've still got the stability with Babar, Rizwan, and then Shan to come down the order. So they just make matters slightly more difficult for themselves because in the middle order, different situation every time. And you just add that much more pressure. So when you've got someone like a Haris, it just makes sense to promote him and give him that license in the first 6 overs to try and get ahead of the game. So I think that's just the one tweak I'd like for Pakistan to see coming the semi-final, because the middle order has definitely played its due share in Pakistan's road to the semi-final.
Yeah, you could sense the emotion in Urooj as well here. They might have won today, but there is still a problem. I guess now we're thinking whether we'll continue discussing this Rizwan Babar breakup at the top, and they might just win the trophy batting exactly this way.
Urooj is speaking far too much sense.
For anyone's liking.
Far too much
We've
sense.
done this too much now.
Look, again, they've obviously got their reasons internally to why they've stuck to it to this point, but I think we all agree that that would be the smart move, and it just gives them a little bit more balance and a little bit more dynamic approach in the first 6 overs.
Where has Mohammad Haris been?
Yeah.
Pakistan, apparently.
Yeah, what's he?
Exactly, in the nets.
It has suddenly just galvanized talk around this Pakistan team. You thought the game against Zimbabwe had them dead and buried. They could not get India to do them the favour they would have desperately wanted by beating South Africa. They had to do it the hard way, beat South Africa, and then hope for the most unlikely result, which somehow the stars have aligned for in their favour, with the Netherlands beating them. And therefore, for the time being, they claim top spot. We must give another shout out to the Netherlands, who have secured automatic qualification to the next World Cup by virtue of finishing in the top 4 of their group. Bangladesh, plenty for them to look back on. We'll come to that in a moment as we review the campaign for Shakib Al Hassan's side. And now we've got the final game of the Super 12s before us, India and Zimbabwe at the MCG in a bit from now. So a very good morning to Andy Flower. I wonder if he woke up sort of rubbing his eyes and trying to check twice if his phone is working right and the updates are right, that South Africa have gone down to the Netherlands to completely throw this Sunday, this final Sunday open. What a day we've had, Andy.
That is exactly how I woke up. I couldn't believe what I saw. Although in saying that, the Netherlands seamers have performed really well throughout. The way they bowled against Zimbabwe just recently was outstanding, I think, on the same pitch, or certainly the same square. And they've been excellent again, Van Meekeren and Klaassen. And you've got to give them a lot of credit for having a really well-organised bowling attack. As we know, that in T20 cricket, if you've got a really organised, skillful and a bowling attack that carries a bit of experience, you can really create serious pressure and against the best sides in the world. So credit goes to them, absolutely. But what a shock to wake up to.
Yeah, we're still trying to recover from it. Let's very quickly, before we move forward, just review Bangladesh as a team in this tournament, right? They'd be looking back and they'd be thinking about a close game against India. There would be talk about what could have been had the rub of the green gone their way against Pakistan. They just got over the line against the Netherlands and Zimbabwe. Did Bangladesh exceed expectations? They would have come close, or did they not just play well enough for the team that you have expectations from?
Well, I don't think they played well enough, honestly. And if you ask them to review their whole campaign as well, I feel as batters, they probably have let themselves down a little bit, especially they've been because of the way how inconsistent they've been. You know, Shanto's the only one who's actually kind of performed pretty decently for them. Litton Dasa one innings when he opened the batting, and I can't think of another person who's actually scored some runs amongst them.
Yeah, look, to me, when you posed that question to Robin, I was thinking to myself, who has played well this World Cup? Who has been consistent? Who has dominated as a team and as an individual? New Zealand, probably you could put in that bracket. Yeah, they've been solid. No one else has really, nailed it. Have really got it together. Got every component of their game together in this World Cup so far.
I think India had, though, to a certain extent.
Oh, they scraped over the line.
I mean, they lost to South Africa. That Pakistan game could have gone either way.
Exactly, and Bangladesh. So yeah, they've got the wins, but have they played well?
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I'm sort of trying to dig deeper and think, well, no one's really nailed it. No one's really nailed it yet. So then back to your question about Bangladesh, well, to me, that they fall in the same category as most other teams.
Right.
It was a tournament that possibly could have been, but it didn't work out. If a few things went in their favour, maybe it'd be a completely different conversation we're having. Totally different conversation. You know, they'll be looking back on so many moments in this World Cup, thinking that moment, we'll rush back onto the field against India. Was that a fair thing? Did that work in their favour? You know, there's so many. You know, the Shakib's dismissal today. You know, they could have posted 150 with an experienced player like him at the crease still. All those types of things. They'll be thinking, well, it wasn't a great campaign, but well, we didn't really have the rub of the green.
Yeah, that's one thing they didn't have going their way. The rub of the green.
Yeah, certainly didn't go their way. Urooj, just quick recap on Bangladesh. Like Sri Lanka, perhaps to a degree, not enough batters that stood up. And Tashkent Ahmed's had a good tournament.
He's had a good tournament.
Other than that, not really a lot of players you can put your hand up and say, yep, they delivered.
Yeah, I think to an extent, Taskin is probably the pick of their players. Too much, I think, fell back on Saqib Al Hasan and the experience that he brings. And I think just as a team, there weren't enough people stepping up and grabbing opportunities. You'd say they had the opportunities, but I think at a lot of point, the inexperience, the emotion got to them. But again, like Tom said, that this World Cup has definitely challenged all skill sets, given the different nature of surfaces. So I think that shapes up for an interesting semi-final to come. But I think Bangladesh will be disappointed. I think Saqib Al Hasan's dismissal today, and it just probably all went spiraling down from there.
I wonder, Andy, if you'd like to just jump in on Tom's point here, that this World Cup, now we're approaching the last game of the Super 12s and no one's really nailed it or dominated. I wonder if that makes for a great World Cup or leaves you sort of feeling like a lot of teams have been underwhelming.
I think it makes for a really fascinating tournament to watch because we're not sure who's going to come out on top, and that is exactly what sport's all about. You know, when the two teams get together, we're not sure about the result, and that's why people turn up to watch. So the tournament's been super exciting because of that. I did want to make an observation about Bangladesh, if I may, and I'd be interested to see what the other guys think. When I was watching them through this tournament, I thought they played the game without the sort of joy that they brought to the game when they first were introduced to international cricket as a full member. It seemed as if they were playing the tournament almost in a slightly sullen manner. Where my memories of Bangladesh, it was when I first played against them, and then also when I was coaching with England and played against them, especially in Bangladesh. We lost to them in a T20 in a World Cup game in Bangladesh, and the joy and smiles on faces and sort of ebullient energy that they used to bring in those days, I didn't see in this World Cup. I mean, it was always going to be tough for them in Australia in these conditions. Big outfields where their lack of power, like physical power, might make the batsmen struggle a little. And where you need a good set of quick bowlers, I thought they might struggle in this World Cup. But it was more the spirit in which they went about their business, I thought was lacking a little. And I just wonder... I wonder the reason for that. You know, sometimes that can be come from the leadership of the group, and I'm not in the dressing room, so I don't know. But I think it's something that they should have a little think about because it affects the way you play. It affects the chances of you doing well. It affects the level of optimism in the dressing room, and I thought they were lacking in that area.
Interesting. It'll make for quite the review of Bangladesh when they go back. They tend to be quite vocal about their emotions. So we will pick up this conversation once we hear more from the camp. Right. We will see Pakistan in the semi-finals. Pakistan live to fight another day in the semi-finals. Social media is going crazy with the 92 parallels. Let me quickly ask Urooj, Mumtaz as well as the rest of our panel. We have two members who played in the 92 World Cup on our panel today. So let's find out if it's going to happen. Urooj?
Well, you never write Pakistan off, do you? And I think they're the best when they're up against the wall. But again, I think look by the looks of it, they'll probably end up facing New Zealand in Sydney. So they've got some good memories against South Africa in Sydney, but New Zealand is probably the toughest opposition in this World Cup. So time will tell in a few days' time.
Okay, New Zealand semi-final 92 2022. Australia didn't make the semis 92 2022. What else do we have? There are quite a few other things, I think.
Did India make the semi-final?
India didn't. It was South Africa who played, so that lineup's a little
Africa.
different. Yeah.
You're far too superstitious.
Oh, I'm not superstitious at all.
I don't believe in any of that absolute rubbish.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom.
We're in 2022 and it's a different tournament, different players. It's going to be a good game though. I'll tell you what, because Pakistan have to turn up because well, they'll turn up obviously, but they've got to bring their A game because New Zealand, I think, will only have to cast their memories back a week or so ago when they played Australia in Sydney and how well they played there, and just press repeat.
Yeah, you put cold water on what would have been a great social viral clip, and you guys just said yes, it's going to happen. Let me give Robbie, do it for social media.
Yes, it's going to happen.
That's it. Andy Fla, the erudite Andy Fla. Can you tell me now if this could be Pakistan's year?
Well, Urooj called it probably a week ago when she was trying to bring up the spirit of '92. So it makes it super exciting to have them in the last four.
Okay, brilliant.
It's actually quite amazing how Pakistan's bringing up 1992 and India bringing up 2011.
Yeah.
So
It looks likely it'll be 2007 right now.
yeah, it looks like
India-Pakistan final, likely.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
That'd be a great game to watch.
Has anyone thought that maybe, I'm thinking outside the box
New
here,
Zealand,
but-
England?
Well, New Zealand, England, and New Zealand get it back.
Yeah,
What
that'd be
happens-
nice as well.
What happens if the World Cup's tied? And what did they play super? Yeah. No, now you keep playing super overs, I think. But anyway, we're not going there. Madness. Urooj, Mumtaz, thank you very much. We will see
Pleasure,
you soon
boys.
for the
Thank you.
semi-finals. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. Let's build up to India v Zimbabwe. We've got Tom, Robbie, and Andy in the house, and the toss that has gone Rohit Sharma's way as we return to the MCG that gets to just give us a taste of good weather before the final. We had an unfortunate day when they last featured in the tournament with a double washout between Afghanistan, Ireland, England and Australia. And the big news from the MCG is that India are batting first. That's not surprising. The big news is they make a change. And Rohit Sharma says at the toss that Rishabh Pant is the only player who's not played a game, so we wanted to give him some game time. Dinesh Karthik is out, so we don't hear if it's anything to do with injury. I'd just like to point out to the Indian captain, with due respect, that there are a couple of other guys that haven't played a game. So what do we read into this, Robin Uthappa?
Well, I think they want to keep their options open.
Yes.
They always know that they can go back to DK and he can, he can be dangerous there. Although he hasn't come off in this World Cup, but they probably want to give Rishabh a game and weigh their options before the semi-finals.
Tom.
I don't buy the game time logic. To me, that game time belongs to the person that they see playing the semi-final, because it's valuable time in the middle, valuable runs potentially missed. If Punt goes out there and does what we know he's capable of doing and gets a 50 off 30 balls and wins the match, or helps contribute to the win, what decision have they got now?
I would go the other way as well. What if he fails? Then what? Are you just going to bring DK back? So what was the merit of this game?
Well,
Or do you
you've
play?
sowed the seed at the toss. Just say we just felt it was important to give them some game time.
Yeah.
Now we're going to flip the other way and bring DK back.
Andy Fla, it's a fascinating sort of reading between the lines that we've got to do here in studios when captains say these sorts of things and make these sorts of decisions. Give me some insight into what the team management is really thinking here.
Well, it's definitely not just giving someone a bit of game time. If he does well, and we know how likely that might be, that he'll be into that semi. So I think they're trying to give themselves options. And one of the issues with the Indian side is they've always got such abundant batting talents sitting on the sidelines. And it puts pressure on the selectors, and when the selectors in this instance is I suppose the head coach and the captain. while they're on tour. And there's this constant talk around the talent sitting in the dressing room not getting a chance. And Pant's been one of those guys during this tournament. Obviously, you know, we all know how talented and dangerous he can be. And now they just want to give him a little sniff.
Tom?
I just want to add to maybe they could be thinking ahead and who their opposition's potentially going to be in the semi, which is England.
Yes.
And whether they feel they need the left-hander in the middle order against Adil Rashid, who's bowling particularly well. So maybe they're thinking a step ahead tactically as well around what their team should look like to go to the semi-final.
Yeah, possibly. And that's actually a fair thought. And if they're going to be facing England, then they're definitely backing themselves to win this one. If they're going to face England, then Adil Rashid has been one of their better bowlers for them, and to actually have someone to target him.
I'm just trying to think of whether this would have been the case if, say, Dinesh Karthik had more of an impact with bat, and he hasn't necessarily had a lot of opportunity.
This wouldn't have been the case if he had more of an impact with the bat.
So there's a double thing here going on here.
Yeah, he's left the door open.
Yeah.
And we've seen the door open today. Once it's been left open again.
And also as a captain, like, you will think about, when you make a change like that, you will think about leaving, like, speaking about it in a way where it can fall on both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So if it works for you, you have an answer. If it doesn't work for you, you still have an answer.
I'm still thinking though whether, you know, this is putting Pant in the putting either of these players in a fair position for some instance. We knew the left-hander thing, but India said it didn't matter to them all through the World Cup. So Dinesh Karthik was your best keeper bat. They want to go continuity in selection. They back KL Rahul when he's not got runs, but somehow that same luxury or logic is not applied to Dinesh Karthik here.
Yeah,
Is this somewhere that they think that this probably is our strongest team, but maybe we started with DK, so we've got to go with him, and now we're going back?
I think you've always got to keep an open mind around selection. I didn't ever buy into the KL Rahul under pressure sort of talk.
Yeah.
You know, to me that was just, you know, that was white noise. That was just people having a chat around, you know, one of their better players. I think there is potentially, you know, the door has been left open potentially because of DK's form hasn't been great. Had a remarkable, you know, IPL, but this is a different tournament at a completely different time. Bunt has proven to be a big match player, and he also comes with that reputation. He also comes with the option as a left-hander, which is a significant, you know, point to even though you might say at the beginning of the tournament, the left-hander doesn't matter, but come the business end, it's an added bonus.
Yeah. To your point that you've been saying on our show for quite a while through the Asia Cup, that you see Pant's place at the top of the order. Now India's 1, 2, 3, 4 unmovable. Kohli 3, Surya 4. So at best he's batting 5, in which case Hardik Pandya's 6. We haven't even seen the best of Pandya apart from that Pakistan game. So does that still bother you or concern you that even if Pant is playing, he's playing in a position that he may not be best suited for?
Well, yeah, that definitely is a thought, but you want to look past that in a situation like this when you come to the business end of a tournament and the top 4 are anyway firing. If they weren't firing, then definitely that was a matter of discussion. But they are firing at the moment, and that's where he finds the position. And then we also have to recognize that he's coming in as a keeper as well. And has Dinesh Karthik has the best time behind the stumps in this World Cup? I wouldn't.
Possibly not.
Possibly not. I wouldn't say so. So it could be that angle as well. You know, so a lot of these things would have led to this decision.
I wonder if the form of the top order is probably key here, Andy, if at all, where initially we were told from the Indian camp that DK is a specialised role. What he does, very few people do, and Pant is not necessarily competing with Dinesh Karthik for that spot. And now the form of the top order almost makes this a nothing to lose sort of selection.
I think that's exactly what it is. It is a nothing to lose. Even if they bring DK back, his confidence will not be damaged by sitting out this game. He will come back and he will do everything that is required for the semi-final. So I think they've got everything to gain from making a late change like this. It's not normal to make a late change like this in a tournament, but I think the way that they've set it up with what Rohit said earlier, I think sets it up for them to go either way in the semi-final, and their team will still be in really good order. The form of that top four, I mean, they've just got such quality, haven't they? So for Pant to displace them, they need to be in dire form, and that's not the case. KL Rahul, we all know his quality, and he was never close to being moved by the management. So yeah, Pant has to slot in at 5 at the moment.
All right. Zimbabwe, on the other hand, will bow out after this final game. They make a couple of changes, interestingly, themselves. It's the first game in the tournament for both Tony Monyonga and Wellington Masakadza. So they've gone with the extra left-arm spin option as teams tend to line up against India. So Hamilton's brother, Wellington, plays in this one. Out goes Luke Jongwe, the seam bowling all-rounder. And Tony Monyonga's a middle-order all-rounder, hard-hitting bat, can bowl some off-spin, comes in. And Milton Shumba's had a quiet tournament, so he finds himself out of the team. Those are the two changes made by Zimbabwe. Andy, you made that point after the last couple of games, right? When no one expected them to beat Pakistan, and they did. And then the expectations were high. They didn't deal with that well. Lost to Bangladesh, lost to the Netherlands. Now no one's got expectations from them. So can they end the day with the biggest of giant killings then known to cricket?
Let's hope not.
Well, did I hear Robin whispering? I hope not. I would.
Your ears are good. Your ears are good, Andy.
Sharp.
I think Craig Irvin mentioned in the build-up to this game that Virat Kohli in the bowlers' pockets is a great thing for the bowlers to play for. Well, India is a giant in the world game, and Zimbabwe like playing the role of giant killers. And we've seen, we keep seeing upsets in this particular World Cup. We know that in T20 cricket, that upsets are more likely than in longer forms of the game. So here's their opportunity. No expectation on Zimbabwe at all. They're on the flight home pretty soon. So they can play with gay abandon, and I hope that's exactly how they go out there and play, full of aggression, smiles on their faces, loving the moment. It's going to be the biggest crowd, perhaps, that a Zimbabwe team has ever played in front of, and that just makes it a brilliantly exciting occasion for them, and they should lap it up.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point Andy makes towards the end. We were hearing on the eve of this game, it's a sellout at the MCG, so about 90,000 is what you can expect, which must be something for these players, even if they're signing off. This is a great game to get.
I reckon it is the biggest crowd, Andy, that they've played in front of. It's, from memory, Harare Sports Club only fits in, 6,000, 8,000?
Come on, man.
I'm making that point as a bit of a joke, because 90,000 is an extraordinary number of people, and if you've only played in front of, let's say, 20,000, 30,000, it's a huge step up.
Yeah, and also because when you play, you get to play in front of big crowds here in India, but the grounds aren't the biggest, right? So the stadiums aren't the biggest in that sense. So you hear a lot of noise, but then the ground doesn't intimidate you. But the MCG is so majestic. It's massive.
Yeah, it's a theatre, isn't it?
It is. It's huge.
It's colossal,
and when you have 90,000 people like creating that energy there, you can hear it like 3 kilometers away from you.
Right, you just got to embrace the moment then if you're Zimbabwe. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Have a good time. You find most of those 90,000 might just be Indian supporters. You might get a few pockets of Zimbabwean flags. They've been great. They've been great to watch, the Zimbabwean support in this T20 World Cup. Good fun. They've had their music and dance at every game that they've had. Let's hope there's reason for them to enjoy themselves today. Right. We haven't spoken much about boxes to tick for India, but I'm guessing Rohit Sharma is one.
Yes.
You'd like to see the best of Rohit here. Perhaps not go all hammer and tongue, try and give himself some time.
I think if he can consolidate and bat through the innings, he'll be doing himself a massive favour before the semi-finals. So just to kind of, for his own sake, to just bat through the innings would be awesome. And if he does, you can expect a massive score.
Since this is a game to give people game time, assuming we take the team management on their word, Tom, once in a while, let's do that. Given the top 4 have had, or at least 3 out of the top 4 have had enough game time, Hardik Pandya has not had a lot of batting since that Pakistan game, which seems an age ago for some reason, would you be tempted to throw him up the order if India get a start? Or maybe Akshar Patel, someone to get some game time?
It's a really interesting point you make there. And if that is the logic that they're going with, it would make sense that you could bat him at 3. That is Pandya, and why not? If that's the approach you're taking, I don't agree with that approach, but if that's the approach you're taking, and the other one that would welcome some some success, some form with the ball is Ashwin.
Yes.
I'm sure he'd welcome a pocket full of wickets.
Would you subscribe to that at all in what's your last game of the Super 12s before the semis, Andy? There are 2 players here. One, there's Pant, who may not get to bat if India's top 4 continue the form they've had, in which case you're trying to think about the merit of the selection. So would you be tempted to throw him up the order? Or Hardik Pandya, given Kohli's doing great, Surya's doing great?
I think it would be a really dangerous thing for India to do. This is going to be a really competitive game. It doesn't matter that Zimbabwe are on the flight home tomorrow. India have to apply themselves like they'd apply themselves in any other T20 World Cup game here. The habits you form mentally are really important for a side, and it wouldn't. I don't think that would be a good message to send the team to make those sorts of changes. India still have to go out there in the middle and do the business against Zimbabwe. And if there's a little bit in that pitch, the Zimbabwe seamers have shown that they can actually perform. So I think India would do well to continue building towards the semi-final, really, and doing the right things and making the right decisions in that regard. So messing around with that type of flexibility, I don't think today's the day for that.
All right, fair enough. And they've started well, Zimbabwe. 7 dot balls, a maiden over by Richard and Garawa to KL Rahul. So they're up for this. They're not taking time to just get used to the occasion and, of course, the theatre and coliseum that the MCG is. Let's get a first innings prediction. Tom Moody?
Well, I'm going to say 187.
Okay. Robin Uthappa?
175.
All right. Andy Flower?
I reckon 160 actually, and it's going to be a tight and free and confident chase by Zimbabwe.
I like it.
Oh, Andy Flower on behalf of Zimbabwe is putting his bets on slaying the giant, the biggest giant that cricket offers. All right, go Zimbabwe.
Let's hear your prediction, bro.
Oh, you want to hear mine again?
Yes, 100%.
I was pretty much as much as you. The difference, I was 95 all out, you guys were 130. So you want me to go for
I like
India?
how you're justifying your prediction.
What did you guys go? I don't want to go anywhere near you guys. You went
175, 187, 160.
Oh, God, you're asking for a serious prediction now. 179.
Okay.
And Zimbabwe to chase it. No, Andy, I'm kidding. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Join us at halftime on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout.